BF cheated and got my sister pregnant, so I left him, but mom insisted I forgive them, leading me to cut off my family for years. After reconciling, I found out mom had been sleeping with my ex's dad. This incident dates back to 14 years ago when I was still in high school. We were a close-knit group of three: Becky, 17F, Rob, 17F, and me, 18M. Back then, Rob had to repeat a year when his parents moved back to the States from Prague. So, the three of us were in the same class, not just friends, but a family. Our fathers were best friends, having settled here after college. Rob's father had moved to Prague for work, but returned when Rob was 7. Becky and I had known each other since we were in diapers. Rob became our friend when we were 6 and 7, respectively, so we had known each other forever. Becky, Rob, and I pledged to be lifelong friends, just like our parents. Rob and I started dating when I was 15. It was not just a teenage fling. We dated for 2 years and were somewhat serious, at least I was. He pretended that he was serious about the relationship. We planned on enrolling in the same college and eventually getting married. People used to call Becky the third wheel, but in reality, Becky and I were so close that Rob felt like the extra wheel. I'll get to that eventually. When we were 17, Becky got knocked up. She was so terrified that she locked herself in the school's washroom. I was horrified too when I saw those 2 pink lines, indicating pregnancy. I asked her who the guy was, but she didn't say anything. She just cried and dreaded her parents' reaction to this. She tested positive twice in front of me to calm herself down. I urged her to see a doctor before telling her parents. I took her to the doctor, and her pregnancy was confirmed. She was so scared of her parents that she kept it hidden for almost a month. That month was equally tough for me. I brought her supplements, ensured she had proper meals, got her snacks and juices, and lent her a shoulder to cry on. She confided in me about her fear, anxiety, and uncertainty. I was her only support, yet she was not willing to reveal the guy's name despite keeping it a secret. I supported her through all means. Finally, I convinced her to speak to her parents before it became evident. She asked me to be with her when she told them, and I agreed to be a part of it. It was not unusual for our parents to see us supporting each other. Her parents thought it was just another matter. The moment she revealed that she was pregnant, her parents called mine to share their distress. She didn't reveal the guy's name, even in front of the parents. She cried so profusely that my parents asked her parents to calm down and give Becky time to confide in them. 2 days later, my mom told me not to visit Becky as often and that I should focus on my studies rather than being a babysitter to my friend. This restriction wasn't because Becky was bad company. She was very protective towards her. A week later, I found out why she was asking me to stay away from Becky, not to protect me but to protect herself. That evening, I randomly showed up at Becky's place. I found Rob with his parents. Both Becky and Rob were crying, and even my parents were present. As soon as my mother saw me, she rushed to me and asked me to go home. I asked her what was the matter, and she said it was none of my business. Seeing me, Rob and Becky both got astonished, and I instantly understood what was happening. I screamed at them, saying the baby is Rob's. They were fooling around behind my back. They both rushed to me, keeping saying they could explain. I said no explanation. The truth was out. My boyfriend and my best friend were hooking up behind my back, and my best friend was having his baby. My parents dragged me out because I was screaming so loud. I came home and locked myself up. I cried for days, curling up inside my bed. It was beyond heartbreaking. I trusted her blindly and supported her in tough times while she was my boyfriend. In her backyard, the worst part was that everyone was so occupied with caring for the would-be mom that no one even thought about my pain. Surely, Becky and Rob tried to reach out to me, but I slammed the door on their faces. I blocked both of them on all social media platforms. It was understandable for Becky and Rob's parents not to care about my heartbreak, but even my parents were the least empathetic. My mom was like, "Get over it. Be happy your best friend is going to have a baby. You'll have a fun and cute little munchkin." She acted so delusional. I mean, my best friend is carrying my boyfriend's baby, and she wants me to be happy about that. She said, "Oh, come on. Don't spoil this for everyone. We are so happy to welcome the baby into our lives. Don't ruin that. It's not a big deal for Rob to sleep with your friend. It's very common in teenage years. Don't take it to your heart. I'm sure you'll soon find another loving boyfriend." She winked and added, "More handsome and tall than Rob." My mental condition got worse. I couldn't place when this happened and how I didn't see it coming. No one was there for me to confide in. My sister, 15F, who was dating Becky's brother, was definitely on Becky and Rob's side. When I cried in front of her, she asked, "How could you not guess that Rob was the dad? You three are always together. If any of you two are having a baby, it has to be Rob's." She also preached the same thing. Move on. Don't spoil our relationship with them. School was the worst. Rob and Becky had dropped out. Rob couldn't take the bullying, and Becky dropped out for obvious reasons. I had no friends besides these two losers, and everyone in the school knew that Becky and Rob were dating. Then Rob made Becky pregnant, and they both dropped out, leaving me at the mercy of the bullies. My family was more concerned about their friendship with Becky and Rob's parents than about my feelings. Dad was still better. He used to check on me sometimes, but Mom was worse. She was supplying Becky with handmade cookies while I was crying and sulking in my room. She basically belittled and laughed at my feelings as Becky's pregnancy grew. My condition became worse. It was just so difficult to see Rob taking Becky for walks, checkups, and dates to ease her anxiety. My family asked me to look away from them and move them out. I didn't know how I could possibly move on. They both were my neighbors, making it not only difficult but impossible to not run into one of them at least once a day. On top of that, my family was constantly engaged in conversations about their baby. Apparently, they called themselves the would-be grandparents. Our families have been close. If she was having a baby with anyone else, I would have shared the same happiness as them, but not anymore. My mental state went for a toss. It got so bad that on the day of my final exams in high school, I packed my bag to run away from home. I had been planning this ever since the news about their baby broke out. I was saving up for it. I had sold all my books, comics, gadgets, watches, and whatever little jewelry I owned. I told my family I was going on a trek with my friends. My family was so done with my sulking that they didn't ask anything and said, "Sure, have fun." I left home, never to come back again. I went to the next town, lived in a hostel, and waited tables for a living. It was stressful with immense uncertainty about the future, but I felt so much better than being at home. After a month, my parents started contacting me, asking when I would return home. I had changed my number, and they emailed me. I blocked them from there too. They used others' email IDs to write to me, so I told my sister that I was not returning home ever and asked them not to contact me. They were emailing me from other Reddit accounts, so I changed that too. That was it. I don't know what they did to find me. Living alone was not hunky-dory, but eventually, I navigated through it. I waited tables for 2 years, then took up a receptionist job for another year, and lastly landed a sales job, which lasted for 3 years. I met my husband while working in sales. He was a marketing guy. We both connected over our troubled family issues. He lost his mom at an early age, and his dad married a teenage girl his age, forcing him to call her mom. Other gaslighting and verbal abuse followed until he ran away from home. We had known each other for just a year when he said he wanted to fund my college education, which I could pay back later. He wanted me to do better in life, so I accepted his offer and went to college. I continued to work part-time during college to take care of my other expenses. I studied accounting and grabbed a decent-paying job right after my graduation. On my first day after work, he proposed to me, and we got married a year later. We have a son now. Life is good. A month ago, we went to Disneyland, and there we bumped into my sister, who was there with her family. She had married Becky's brother and has a son with him. I hugged her son, and the moment was so surreal. I hugged my sister, and we cried. She hated me for ghosting her, and she and her husband, Becky's brother, both apologized for not supporting me enough. I said, "Let bygones be bygones, and let's enjoy the trip." We all enjoyed it like a family. I exchanged contacts with her, and she made me promise to stay in touch. Now, she went home and told Mom about bumping into me. She texted me that Mom is asking for my number. I was still not sure if I wanted to get in touch with her. My husband advised me to make peace with my family and move on, so I gave the green signal to my sister about sharing my number. Just an hour later, I got a call from my mother. She was sobbing over the call. She relented her mistakes, said she was sorry that I had to go through all of this, and that she was yearning to meet her grandchild. She is insisting that I visit home with my family. While I didn't say yes or no yet, I'm thinking about what to do. Edit, I missed one important point. My sister was showing me pictures of my brother's children, and while scrolling through the gallery, I stumbled upon a family picture. It had Becky and Rob. My sister told me Becky and Rob got married 4 years after I ran away from home. They had 2 more boys apart from the first baby girl. I just smiled and said nothing. She wanted to say more about them, but seeing me not interested, she backed off. Update 1. Hey guys, sorry for not updating this earlier. Let me start from where I left off. After a lot of contemplation, I went to meet my family. My parents hugged me and cried. They apologized for neglecting my feelings. It was a bittersweet moment for us. My sister was there with her husband and kids. Her husband, Becky's brother, also apologized to me and requested me to be in touch. It was so nice to meet them all. We had grown up together like a family. My brother, who was 10 when I left, is also married now and has a 2-month-old infant. It felt so good to hold and play with my nieces and nephews. We went on a 2-day trip. The first day was so emotional and beautiful in its own way. My parents met my husband and my son, who was so delighted to meet his grandparents. On the second day, I was casually chit-chatting with my sister when my mom came in and said, "See, I told you you would find a better man than Rob, and see, you did find such a good husband. You unnecessarily blew up the entire situation." My sister gave her a look and asked her to stop, but who could stop her? She continued, "Oh, that's okay, Charlie. Mia is over her past now. Look how happy she is in her life." I said, "Surely I am." She sat beside me and said, "Then why not make peace with the past, forgive everyone and move on?" I said, "I did make peace with the past, and I have forgiven you all." She said she didn't mean everyone, but Rob and Becky. She wanted me to forgive them and get back on talking terms with them so that we all can hang out as a family like before. I said, "Why do you want me to do that? You guys still hang out with them without me." She said, "It embarrasses them that I don't talk to their children." I said, "But your other 2 children, my brother and my sister, are nice to your friends. Be happy with that. Why bother me?" She insisted that I forgive Becky and Rob and become their friends again. I said, "No way, and it's none of your business." She started preaching the importance of forgiveness and Jesus stuff, then said, "Becky wants to meet you and your husband. Can I call her for dinner?" I said, "If you do that, I'm leaving the house now and never coming back." At this point, my siblings also got pissed off at Mom, questioning why she told Becky about my visit to her. Mom said Becky's dad saw me through the window and might have told Becky. Then Becky called Mom and requested her to patch me up with them. I got so furious at the lame excuse that I stood up and went inside my room. My sister followed me inside and said, "Mom has a weird obsession with Becky's family." Yeah, they've all been friends for 4 decades, but the way Mom cares to keep the friendship smooth looks so fishy now. I asked her what made her say that. She said, last year, she and her husband were going through turbulence in their relationship. My sister casually mentioned to Mom that if her husband continued his gaslighting habit, she might divorce him. Mom lost it and said outright that there would be no divorce, whatever happens. My sister has to adjust even if cheated on her because we cannot ruin their friendship. It sounds weird. My sister and I looked back into the past and realized Mom had always been like this. She always loved Becky and her brother more than us back then. We never complained about this because Becky was my best friend and her brother was my sister's boyfriend. Discussion over, we came back home. I almost forgot about the talk with my sister. Last week, my husband showed me a video where a middle-aged couple is making out at a bar. That couple is no one but my mother with Becky's dad. Yes, it blew my mind. My mother's obsession with keeping a good relationship with them makes so much sense now. They can hang out anytime they want. My husband went to the next town, not my hometown, for a work trip. There he saw them. He recognized that it was Mom, but didn't recognize that the man was Becky's dad. He recorded it to show me, because there was no way I would have believed him without the video. After seeing the video, I was choking. I really needed to spit that out, so I called my sister and asked her to come down the next day. She sensed it was urgent and rushed. I showed her the video, and she was equally shocked. My sister has not told her husband yet, because he would be equally freaked out. Now we are at a fix. What do we do now? Do we tell Dad about this? Or should we confront Mom and ask her to mend her ways? But wouldn't that mean cheating on Dad again? It's getting complicated. Update 2. My parents are getting divorced. Yes, for obvious reasons. My sister and I spent weeks thinking about what to do. I could at least discuss it with my husband and vent out, but my sister's condition was worse. She can't even discuss it with her husband. Her anxiety and silence were spoiling her relationship. We had to do something, so we did what any other siblings in the world would do. We told our brother, thinking he might come up with a better idea to deal with the situation. Upon seeing the video, he absolutely lost it. He went straight to Mom and confronted her in front of Dad. She denied it, and he showed her the video. I don't know if it was wise or foolish of us to involve him, but at least he offloaded our burden. My brother told us that he was absolutely pissed with Mom all his life because she had been ignoring him in front of Becky and her brother. He said he hated me and my sister because of our closeness with that family, but as he grew up, our closeness made sense while Mom didn't. Dad and my brother almost barged into their house and showed the video to Becky's mom, who broke down upon seeing her husband making out with our mother. To simplify matters for you guys, Mom was basically sleeping with Dad's best friend. Yeah, it blew my mind. My mother's obsession with keeping a good relationship with them makes so much sense now. They can hang out anytime they want. Our families wanted to remain neutral, but we couldn't after knowing they had been fooling around ever since we were children. Initially, they claimed it had started recently as a midlife crisis, but their stories were inconsistent. Dad threatened to throw her out of the house right away, then they spoke the truth about cheating for over 25 years. Yes, they've been doing this under everyone's nose, and no one ever suspected them. Dad tried to hold the fort for the sake of the family, but he grew miserable. One day, he just showed up at my door, hugged me, and cried like a baby. He said, "Now I understand the pain I must have gone through when my boyfriend cheated on me with my best friend." Mom did the exact same thing with Dad, sleeping with his best friend. It's terrible, like getting stabbed from both ends. Dad called all three of us, me, my sister, and my brother, for a meeting. He said he was sorry, but he could not forgive Mom and live with her anymore, pretending nothing happened. Mom was telling him the same thing she told me. Forgive and move on. Dad was proceeding with a divorce, and before that, he wanted to inform us all three of us to support him in whatever he decides. Apparently, when Mom found out that Dad was going to serve her, she blacked out. She pleaded with him to give her one last chance for the sake of the family. I was not present at that time, but my sister was, and she gave Mom a piece of her mind. It was one huge drama in the family. Dad ultimately got her served and moved out. A similar story happened with Becky's parents. Her mom has filed for divorce and also moved out of the house. So in my house, Mom is alone, and in her house, her dad is alone. They might just move in together, who knows? Blessing and disguise for them, who knows? They both might have been waiting to live together. Anyways, I'm out of this. I have my own family to care for. These divorces have been rough on my sister because both sides of her family are affected. She and her husband are going through tough times. I hope their relationship doesn't suffer amidst all this and that they sail through this rough patch. Thanks for all the love. I'll update the thread if anything develops. Story 2. Husband wanted to name.